my boys were certainly bullied. It starts on the school bus.
Yep.
They start calling them names. They will take their things. For example, one time they took their bag and they did, like the guy got off the bus without his school bag. And then they kicked them.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the older one went to a boys' school. He was trying to adapt and they started calling names. We didn't know how to deal with it. Because in a boys' school, they would say, oh, you just have to deal with it.
Boys
it's a
will be
boys'
boys.
school.
That's
Boys
what
will
they
be
say, right?
boys,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay. So hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Deep Dive with me, Steven and Crispina.
So if you guys have a topic or if you want us to talk to a guest that you think would make a good, a guest for this podcast, you could write to us. You can send your email to cnapodcasts@mediacorp.com.sg.
You've seen the show. It's on YouTube as well. You get to see all our beautiful faces. And let us know what you think because we do love to hear from you.
This week we turn our attention to something that's been around for a very long time.
It's about bullying.
Yes, bullying in schools.
Yeah.
Steve, do you watch these videos that go viral about kids?
I mean, I've seen them. I don't intentionally search them out to watch them.
No, but when you spot it, do you watch it?
Yeah,
all
I
the
do.
way?
I do.
Okay.
Not necessarily all the way. It depends on how long it is.
Okay, I can't.
Okay. Oh, you can't. Why not?
Yeah, I have an aversion to little kids being beaten up.
Ah.
Yeah.
But if they're big kids? Okay.
No, just any kind of violence. Because I, as a parent, right?
Yes.
All parents look at it, I look at it this way that, what if it's my kid?
Yes, that is true.
Right? So I feel like I automatically shut off. Same reason I don't watch dash cam cameras of accidents.
Oh.
Do you watch those?
I mean, yeah, if it comes up, I want to see
Wow.
how the accident happened and what happened. So I'm curious. So that's why I watch.
Okay, but we've had a couple of these, viral videos of kids being bullied,
That's right.
beaten up, etc. Have you encountered bullies? Either for yourself as a student
Yeah.
or as a parent?
I can't remember as a student myself, but as a parent, I think my kids have had moments when they were troubled by people at school. I can't really say for sure whether it's bullying, which is one of my first questions to our guest today in terms of how do we define bullying.
Right. Okay, I don't remember being bullied either in school. I think it might be something to do with me being like the helpful, funny prefect.
Oh, wow.
So they didn't pick on people like
That's
that.
how people liked you, Crispy.
Yeah, same reason why they didn't pick on you, right? Okay, but my boys were certainly bullied.
Okay.
It starts on the school bus.
Yep.
They start calling them names. They will take their things. For example, one time they took their bag and they did, like the guy got off the bus without his school bag. And then they kicked them.
Ooh.
Yeah. And the older one went to a boys' school.
Okay.
And I thought that the first 2 years especially was very stressful for him. He was trying to adapt and they started calling names. But the thing that I felt as a parent was that it felt normal. Like we didn't know how to deal with it. Because in a boys' school, they would say, oh, you just have to deal with it.
Boys
it's a
will be
boys'
boys.
school.
That's
Boys
what
will
they
be
say, right?
boys,
Yeah. Okay.
A bit of this rough and tumbling business is okay.
So let's start with that big definition of what is bullying. And has it changed over the years?
Bullying is a very specific term in research and as well as in practice. So the first thing is, of course, it has to be an aggressive act with the intention to harm the person. So it's not just aggression alone, but intention to harm. There also has to be a clear power difference between the bully and the victim. And the act has got to be repetitive. So it happens over
Again
and
and
over.
again.
Yes. When we're talking about power difference, it can be in size, it can be in academic achievement.
Oh.
Cindy, so if you recall, how old were you when you were bullied?
I think my earliest memory was when I was 7 years old. So that was when I was in primary 1.
Okay.
Yeah, actually it started from the teacher in a way.
Ooh.
Yeah, so back then I think it was more common for teachers to be more physical towards students. So I recalled my teacher was quite impatient when we asked her like math questions. So she would actually like pull our hair, then pinch us, all that. Yeah, it was quite common in class.
But she didn't just pick on
Yeah,
one
she
or two
didn't
kids,
just pick
right?
on
It was
me.
that was her.
There was it is something that she did towards everyone in
Okay.
class. Yeah, so I
Wow.
remembered that happened. And then subsequently, when I went on to like primary 3, there was a different teacher who did different things. And then the other students joined in as well. It was
Yeah.
more of teasing. So
Okay.
maybe calling me out in class, talking about my drawing, how it was so weird in front of everyone.
Oh.
Yeah.
And this was the teacher.
Yeah, this was the teacher.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, but you were saying that it kind of sort of spilled over into the kids as well, and eventually you were talking about being isolated, right? So
Yes.
you didn't have friends,
Yeah.
and you had to end up eating alone at recess, etc.
Teachers are the role models for students. So when students observe that, their teachers are doing that, are singling a student out in front of everyone, then they kind of just stay away from that student as well, which happens to be me.
First of all, I'm sorry to hear about the experiences that you have gone through, Cindy, and that's really very atypical. But also at the same time, for us to kind of emphasize that there will be avenues for our students to actually raise this up to either the senior management within the school to kind of discuss and report some of these issues.
But this was some time ago, right? I'm sure it's not common, lah. Teachers.
Yeah, I don't think it's common
Yeah.
today. That was
Don't-
about 20 years ago.
You don't see teachers as being kids don't see them as bullies, right?
Not in recent years, as far as we know. I think with more child-centric approach
Yes.
in recent years.
Yeah.
I think teachers are very well trained in fact playing the supportive role or looking out
Yeah.
for signs of children who may be victims of bullying.
Because of experiences like Cindy's, where the teacher may inadvertently be doing it, not realizing that she's encouraging that kind of behavior from the rest in the class, right? So I think that's changed a lot in the years that have passed.
Coming back to this idea of aggressiveness and intention to harm, right? Before the recording, we were talking to the team and asking, okay, what do you guys consider bullying, right? So some people say, oh, this person called me names,
Yeah.
say I was fat lah, I was ugly, this kind of thing. But I feel like that's hustle and bustle of school life. Am I being very old-fashioned in thinking that way?
Okay, so again, it goes back to the power difference, right? So if, let's say, someone calls you names, right, or comment on your body shape and all that, and if there is no power difference, you feel very empowered to shoot back at the person, right?
Okay.
But for a bully-victim relationship, it's very different because you feel that you are just powerless. You don't know how to
Okay.
fight back. You can't fight back. There's just no way that you can stand up for yourself. So that is a key difference.
Okay. So is it down to character? Like some kids are
Yeah.
feisty.
Well, it could be. I would imagine one student experiencing the bullying behaviors
Yeah.
may respond absolutely differently for
Exactly,
another
right?
student.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I kind of connect with Hoi Shan is the repetitive kind of behaviors that happen over time that actually makes it a bullying act or bullying
Right,
behavior.
right.
If I have this mental game, I come to you and every day I say, wow, you're really ugly. And I just do it, 5 times a week, then that also could be considered bullying, right?
If the person has no power to fight back
That's
or
right.
to,
Yeah.
They should
to
just
raise
say,
an
so
issue.
are you.
Yeah. No, so if that person could say, so are you, then
Then no power
it
difference.
wouldn't be bullying, right?
Absolutely.
Then
Yeah.
it's pure aggression.
The videos that we see, clear-cut case, right? There's aggression.
Yeah.
Somebody is like really picking on somebody else and they can't fight back. So these are the parameters. Okay, tell us how serious this is. According to MOE figures, it's like 2 incidents out of every 1,000 primary students, 5 incidents out of every 1,000 secondary students. It sounds very low.
That's
But
because
every
nobody
kid
reports
we
it, right? That's
No,
basically
but
it.
every kid we speak to says, at some point, yes, there
Yeah.
was some bullying.
And Crispina, I think our data that we have does show that when it comes to bullying figures, it has remained kind of consistent over the last 5 years at
Okay,
least.
so these are reported incidents.
There might be other students, like you have mentioned before, that may not be reporting, or they may have resolved the situations on their own, either with the help of parents or their peers.
Oh, okay, so let me ask you point blank. So can we trust the numbers? Or is it much worse than the numbers say?
Well, at this point of time, that's the numbers that we have.
Yeah.
And definitely in terms of practice, Steve, if I could kind of respond to you from the perspective of a school counsellor, I think in terms of the number of students that we have engaged and supported over
Yeah.
the years, it has not increased. One of the possible reasons why I think we are having such a big conversation about this, I think we have noted at least over the last 10 years with social media, with the introduction of the smartphones, there are definitely a lot more cases that are being publicized.
Meaning they're recording themselves.
They're recording themselves and they're being publicized and put out
It's coming
actually
to
in
light.
the public.
People are knowing about it.
If you're pummeling some kid, why are you recording it? It's just like, isn't that evidence?
Yeah, but
Against
also he gets
yourself?
to say, hey, look what I did, man. And this is the bully, right?
That might be a power thing.
Yeah, that's a power thing too, right?
Yeah. So do you see that is it's the phone that's making the big difference in us seeing more things online?
I mean, well, the phone is definitely an easy way to document some of these things, right? Before that, if you were bullied or people call you names and they just say something, utter something right in your face, and then they walk off and it's gone.
No evidence, right?
There's no evidence. It's just your words against mine. But now it's all well documented in an easy way that can be well disseminated through many avenues. And I think that makes a key difference.
Yeah. I think Hoi Shan, having said that, when we look at the numbers, it's not inching up significantly.
Then I have to ask you, what can be done? Because sometimes the situation is kind of a bit grey. So it's he said, she said, and yes, it may have happened, but what do? You go talk to the kid, don't do it again?
As a general approach, whenever a case is being surfaced, our discipline masters typically gets involved. They will interview the students who were involved and really get the facts of what actually happened. We don't just punish the students. Part of disciplining is also the restorative aspect.
When you mean restorative, you mean like what? Counseling,
sitting down with the
explaining to
student,
them, explaining
that's
to
right,
them.
engaging with them. And I think one of the key areas that we aim to do for the students who are engaging in bullying behaviors is to actually find out some of the underlying concerns and issues that might be driving or maintaining those bullying behaviors.
Okay. You've been in the school system handling kids as a counsellor for nearly 20 years now. Is there something that's changed about the general trend of the cases you see as more aggressive?
Coming back to the earlier conversation about smartphones, there seems to be some information from a practice level to say that there are more incidences of cyberbullying.
Okay, we'll come to that.
And that's really about the access and availability of the devices that the students have.
So there are more platforms, ironically, for bullying.
Yeah.
But Cindy, I mean, we want to hear a bit more about your story because we hear that it took an interesting twist. You were being bullied. Then later you went on to bully others.
People.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I think my primary school experiences were being the one that got bullied, right?
Okay.
So then in secondary school, I kind of have like a change of image where, I took on a more like rebellious, like appearance. And then I also felt more confident because of that. And I joined in other students in like teasing other students. And I remembered in primary school as well, when I was being bullied in school, so I would actually go home and bully my sisters because I live with 3 other sisters.
Oh.
It was just that you felt you had control at home that you didn't have in school?
It was because it was fulfilling a certain need that I lacked, which is the sense of control and power. Yeah. So in school, when I was being bullied a lot, I felt like, I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So I went home and then I did that to my sisters so that I feel more empowered in a sense.
To be honest, bullying behavior totally makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Because if you think about it, it's really trying to get as much resources as you can, right? And how do you go about doing this? Is to elevate your own social status, your own power, and then just get as much as you can. And so it makes complete sense for bullying behavior to happen.
Right.
But of course, at the same time, it's not socially sanctioned. If you show yourself to be a socially, unlikable person, it can also backfire, right? In terms of your own, survival and adaptiveness.
But it does cross the line. Right? When the bullied victims obviously develop mental health issues, when they start, avoiding school, and of course, when they get hurt like this. So, you were talking about cyberbullying versus physical bullying, right? How bad is cyberbullying in Singapore?
I'm really referring to the study that was a collaboration between the Singapore Children's Society and I think the Institute of Mental Health.
Yes.
They collected some data in 2014, and this paper was ultimately published in 2020. So that paper really looked at, the comparison between traditional bullying, which means like physical, relational, and all of those things, versus cyberbullying. So the figure that they put at for traditional bullying is about 1/4.
Okay.
So 1/4 of the people, I think about over 3,300 students, secondary school students that they surveyed.
Whom they surveyed. Yeah.
Yes, between 14 and 17 years old, and 1/4 of those will be bullied, of which I think about 12% cyberbullied. So you can get a rough sense of those figures, and we're not very far off from international figures or averages. Internationally, it's about there.
Yeah.
So we are not peculiar in any way.
Would the underlying causes of bullying be any different? Have they evolved over time?
From a counselling perspective, we often look at both the presenting issue, which is what we're talking about now, bullying, and many a times, more importantly, the underlying issues. What is perpetuating the behaviour? And we do note that bullying on its own is complex. For every single student that we see and support for bullying incidences, the reasons can be multiple.
Okay, but give us some examples.
So previously when I was in the primary school, I was supporting this P6 student, a male student, and he comes to school. There were many a times that he goes into emotion dysregulation episodes. He will lose his temper very easily. He will hit out at the peers, scold vulgarities even. And when we engage him, and when we engage Daddy, invited Daddy to come down to
His
the
parents,
school.
his father.
The
Okay.
father. And we realized that the father was
Similar.
confrontational towards us. And we kind of understood a little bit about what might be the causes. I'm going to put this up front to say that not all bullying cases fit the same mold,
Of course.
Yeah.
but there will be some examples.
Right.
So the environment you grew up in, the people
Absolutely.
around you,
Absolutely.
those circumstances,
Absolutely.
of course, yeah.
Some of the videos that we see are very, very violent. I mean, they lead to, kids bleeding and maybe end up with injuries and all that. Is that something that's changed over the years?
I'm not sure whether it has changed, but one of the dynamics, and Hoi Shan will probably be able to jump in here, is the effects of peer pressure. And if we look at some of the videos, there is the student who is bullying, there's
Yes.
the student who is being bullied,
Yep.
and there are bystanders
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
and peers.
It's always like a group effort, right?
yeah,
Almost,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so the group
Yeah.
thing is very powerful.
Well, I mean, group dynamics, peer dynamics, it's so prominent in the secondary school years. I think the recent videos that we saw, these are all teenagers.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
In MOE, what we have tried to do, especially in the last couple of years, at the current time, we have peer supporters. They are trained within each school. So these peer supporters, in fact, are sometimes the eyes and ears of the teachers, and they look out for signs of distress in their peers. And if need be, report to the teachers about certain bullying incidences if need be, so that both the student who bullies and the student who's being bullied, both of them actually receive support at the same time.
Yeah, but this is so complex, right? Sometimes, they don't want to tell the teacher because they feel like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you, like if you want to tell the teacher, then
And they'll be like, now everybody knows.
then you will
tell
be
the
even
teacher.
more bullied,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I think at that point, I wouldn't actually tell the teachers about it. Yeah. I mean, first of all, I don't think that, in my experience, they were like trusted adults. Yeah, but
Yeah.
even if they were, I think I would face a lot of hesitation because I didn't want to appear as weak to other students.
So see, this is the complicated dynamics when it comes to bullying, right? Which probably explains why a lot of it is unreported.
And it's also not just one or two people. I mean, so I imagine something's happening at school. The other students stand around and watch. What do? Do they cheer the kid who's, punching the other kid? Does
They're
anyone
filming.
step
They're-
in? Does anyone? They film it? Yeah. And then it's
And
sort of,
sometimes they join in, right?
yeah, they become emboldened, right? So so it's almost like a vicious cycle. I mean, do we even teach our students that, you can tell them that this behavior is wrong, but should they be stepping in to try and stop the fight, to try and get involved? Because very often we have this bystander behavior.
Who will stop the fight, Steve? Everybody will just run away.
But why? I mean, so we should have that mindset that I can make a difference.
In a lot of bullying interventions, that's what we are trying to empower children to do, right? I mean, we're really zooming into how we can harness that kind of resources, because it's just only so much that adults can do, right? Like Cindy pointed out, how many of those who are bullied will actually approach a teacher, even if the teacher is a trusted adult. And we're not even talking about parents yet.
Let's get quickly into how bullying is handled, right? Okay, so when there's a case it comes to you, obviously you have different levels, right? So you try to deal with it. But when does it become when the police are called in?
When the police are called in, definitely when the law is being broken.
Okay.
Yeah.
So assault.
Assault. I think just like how we have seen in the recent cases, in some of the schools, the police are involved.
That's a more clear-cut case. When you break the law, the police get involved.
That's right.
But the guy who goes around calling you every day, you're ugly and stupid.
And there's a process in place to ensure that each case that's being reported is investigated. And when we look at supporting, again, both the student who's being bullied and the student who's bullying, again, that's where the restorative support actually comes in for both.
Sounds very nice, actually.
Now, what is this restorative treatment?
That's where both students may receive counselling support, and in the counselling dynamics or process, typically we invite the student to share some of the thoughts that he or she might be having whenever that those incidences were happening.
Okay.
And we kind of explore different kinds of coping strategies with the students,
Right.
and in hopes that, of course, they may learn new skills in order to cope with some of these peer challenges.
I think Sean talked a little bit about modeling behaviors, right?
Yeah.
You have aggressive behaviors or aggressive caregivers at home. That's what you learn to be adaptive, right, in that kind of environment.
Yes.
So how can you blame a kid for then being aggressive in the school context?
So they're just doing what they see.
Yeah.
Should you call the parent in and then counsel the parents? Do you think that it's not just a school problem to solve?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Yeah, because I think that it really depends on the home environment as well. Those can contribute to the person's behavior in school. So I think parents actually play a very significant role in shaping the child's behavior or even being their protective support system.
But here's a challenge, okay? Let's take on. So what are the role of parents in bullying? One, there's the parent who is a good role model, not practicing it at home, but then there's the other parent who is the bully at home too. So how do you deal with both cases?
I suppose it's very contextual, Steve. One of the ways that schools go about doing this is really engagement. Okay. Inviting the parent to come down to the school. Sometimes that meeting may consist of your school leader, your discipline master, as well as the school counsellor as well, to help parents understand the impact of the students' behaviours. So when we engage parents, most of the time it's really providing information for them, not so much about providing counselling. And that's something that schools can't
Sean,
do.
I'm sorry, but it doesn't sound... It's like just saying, he shouldn't be doing that. And parents, I'm like, yeah, I know. How effective is this?
It's tough, lah. I think it depends on the parent also, right? Parents don't show up just because their kids are being called up for being bullies, and then they say, okay, I'll be good now. I'll be teaching him. So it's
you are absolutely right.
Yeah, it's really tough.
It's very complex. For us, it's so easy, right? You see a child or a teenager bullying another person, and it's easy to point fingers and say, you shouldn't do this, right? Why are you doing this? We encourage children to have empathy, right? And why can't we also have some empathy for the bullies and think about what kind of contextual background would have actually led to that behavior?
This is not something we can resolve in one session like that. My punishment always just go stand against the wall in the corner outside the principal's office, and then
Steve was the kind who broke up fights.
Right.
Yeah, I did once, and then I got punched.
So you're not the typical bystander, aren't you?
He is not the typical bystander. I would run away from a fight. So I'm a typical bystander.
There you go.
Why would I get involved in a fight and then I'll get punched?
Steve, I think the point that you raise is very, very important, and it's the one area that we are focusing on with our students who are bystanders, and letting them know that sometimes there are different ways of standing up with your peers. And it doesn't mean going to the teachers and ratting up on them. Hey, this is going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you do something about it? We do coach them to say that when you observe something happening, this is what you can do. And sometimes there are reporting structures within our schools that we can report and at the same time still stay anonymous.
And bystander effect is very powerful, because if one person steps forward first, then somebody else is more willing to step forward, and then you know there's bravery in numbers.
And it creates the power differential,
Yes.
and it throws
To
it.
shift.
The strength in numbers, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
Cindy, what's your wish list, in a
Yeah.
way to like deal with bullying?
Yeah, I think I was very heartened to hear him share about the reporting structure in school. I think that was something that we didn't have back then. So I think being able to actually share with like the teachers or even the school counselors without having their identity revealed, I think that's very helpful.
Yes, I think that's indeed a good thing. Sean, what about you?
I go back to the previous two themes about our approach when we manage bullying incidences in the schools. We take on both a corrective as well as a restorative stance when we support the students.
Harnessing peer support, I really like that idea, but I think there are also some limits to what we can do with peer support. Don't forget, remember we talk about, the definition of bullying, right? And how people come together in the first place, how students and children come together in the first place is when they're similar. So those people who were bullied, or children who have been bullied, very likely they also had friends who are victims. So they are already low in social status, at the lower end of the power
Right.
difference. So the power of that peer support can be very limited. So more must be done to really harness that kind of energy beyond the child's social circle.
What would you tell your kid on how to stand up to bullies? Steve,
Wow.
fight back, punch back.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I'm a non-confrontational
Yeah,
kind of
you're
guy.
non-violence.
And non-violent. If it got really bad, I'll say, come, let's go talk to the kid together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was going to say that when the parent shows up and says, okay, who is Daniel here? And then maybe we can talk about it.
If I were the parent, I would be very intentional in cultivating a strong relationship with my child in the very early years.
Oh, so
Okay.
that they can tell you.
Building that foundation,
Good plan.
it's important to really empower the child to say that, yes, I'm here for you. You can trust me, and to give them the confidence that you are good enough to also stand up for yourself because you are
Right.
loved.
I have a 13-year-old daughter at home. This is not a theme that we have visited yet.
Okay.
But
So don't listen to this podcast.
if she would have come to me, I think some of the things that I might consider doing is really asking her how she dealt with the situation at that point of time, and taking more of a coaching kind of stance. Maybe brainstorming some of the strategies that she may be using, and really inviting her coming back for further conversations and updates about what's going on. Yeah, and really building her own strategies and competencies.
Spoken like a true counselor. Cindy, as somebody who's been bullied, what advice would you have?
Our thing is to really build like the person's assertiveness and confidence. Yeah, so they don't look like easy targets of bullying. But I also know that isn't easy. So it comes from
because
within.
some people are a bit more meeker than others, right? Okay. But
Yeah.
learn to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
If you are suffering from bullying, I think just speak to someone, an adult you trust. It doesn't have to be a teacher. It could be your cousin. It could be an auntie, or a good friend who's just an older adult who can help you out of the situation. Because I think reaching out is the first step.
Yep.
Otherwise, nobody knows what's
Exactly.
going
Don't suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Is basically the point of that. Okay. Thanks to the team behind the Deep Dive podcast, Janani Johari, Tiffany Ang, Saya Win, To Yen Yun, and Joanne Chan. Video is by Hanida Amin, and sound mixing by Ken Delbridge. See you guys next week.
on. Bye for now.